Hello, this is Solomon Kamajan, Assistant Director for the Niamburu Cultural Center, with two students who are strong members of the Niamburu Media Collective. And I just want to ask you guys if you could state your names first and foremost, and secondly, why did you decide to get involved in a media collective?
Alright, I guess I'll go first. My name is Zane Adam, and I'm a sophomore here. And I decided to become a part of this media collective because, one, I was always sort of conscious about different happenings in our community, and I realized discrepancies and inequalities, but I never really got engaged. And so this was a good opportunity for me to do our own media and then figure out information on our own and then become informed.
Okay. I'm Carson Ward, and I'm a freshman, and I decided to get involved because I feel like this issue has been going on for such a long time, and I believe that it's affecting our campus, our emergency alert. So I wanted to make the campus more aware of what's actually going on, since it's actually happening here and just all over the world.
That's a great point, and I'd like you guys if you guys can touch on, because what you just said kind of stimulated me to ask the pointed question in regards to the crime alert. The crime alerts are what recently happened regarding the crime alert has brought disdain to your mind.
Well, with the crime alerts, it's happened more than once. I know once there was the bank robbery, and I feel like African Americans are described so much more than anyone else would be. They said what he was wearing, how he looked, and they just described him so well in the emergency alert. And then also recently, there was a robbery behind McKeldin Library, and at first they accused 3 white males, and when they accused the white males, they put it in a paragraph, and at the very end of the paragraph, after they described what happened, they were like, oh, it was 3 white males. But then they switched it up and said it was 3 black males, and the way they described it was they put it in list. And at the very top of the list, it was 3 black males. And with the bank robbery, they actually posted a picture, and it was actually not the suspect. So it was false information.
And then, referencing to a current event, on Monday, there was there were multiple stabbings on right outside of campus, and then it included at least 9 white males. The scuffle included 9 white males, and that happened on Monday. It's Thursday, and even though the suspect was apprehended last night, there was never a crime alert. And it's a trend that most people will admit to, that black males or anything that has to do with those types of crimes, like robbery or anything, petty offenses, not even a stabbing, crime alerts are quick to go up 30 minutes after the actual crime happened. And there was that difference in time for a stabbing compared to a minor assault or a robbery. That is just, it's atrocious.
Right. So it places this negative stereotypical stigma on black males, and when you have those kind of crime alerts that are it seems like that when you have those kind of crime alerts that have a preponderance of placing black males as the perpetrator of these crimes, and it kind of goes along with the national statistics that black people and people in color in general are overrepresented as criminals and underrepresented as victims. And so when you have that, and then you have this double standard where, as you guys described, a scuffle that involved a stabbing outside of a local bar that involved mostly white males, you don't see the same kind of stigma placed on it. You don't see the same kind of crime alert and description of the alleged assailants.
Yeah, definitely. So outside of the campus, a lot of the black males that are put up on the crime alerts, they're maybe just locals right outside of campus. So yeah, that goes along with who's pointed, and who's being discriminated against. They're being put on the crime alerts 30 minutes after, and then actual students that were involved in the scuffle, they were never put up on the crime alert, and that's within the campus. So is it an elitist society?
Yeah.
That's a question.
Elitist or structurally,
Yeah.
institutionally racist, society. Which brings me to the next question. That people are about to witness the first like mini documentary that this Nimburo Media Collective has put together, and the documentary covers race, crime, and drug policy. I want to ask you a question. Why was this topic important to cover in this particular documentary, and what are some of the striking things that both of you guys learned along the way as you were compiling research towards putting this documentary together?
Well, I know one striking statistic was that there's millions of people that are imprisoned and incarcerated, but over half of them are African Americans. And what's really interesting about that is that 12% of the population is made up by African Americans. So I don't understand how over half of these millions of people are only 12% of African Americans. And that was really striking to me. And I feel like this project was really important because we're spending all of this money to incarcerate these African Americans when instead we could use this money to pay for their education or to better their community to prevent all these crimes.
And then for me, within the campus, there are obvious discriminative tendencies, and so that's when we wanted to dive into this project, because if it's happening on a campus, where everyone is a good citizen supposedly, then what about our outside community, and then what about the global community and the U.S.? So the most striking thing for me right off the bat was when I was introduced to the concept that the prison, there's a term called the prison industrial complex, and basically the prison system of America, the concept that was introduced to me was slavery with a new name. And so that just goes into the wider range of talking about how slaves back in the times of slavery, slaves were in a locked position. They were forced to do free labor, and they were coerced to live lives that they didn't freely choose. And so and so someone was benefiting off of the plantations and all that entire system. And so when slaves were liberated, supposedly, then the free labor was supposed to be canceled out. But with that economy that was thriving, where is it supposed to go? And then that's when another striking instance was that it changed from slavery to the new name, basically the prison system. And so inmates, prisoners still today have to do free labor. They're once again coerced to do things that they don't choose to do within and then they're still enslaved basically. And so the prison system is profiting. Once again, that's where the economy, picked up. That's where it took the slack of the plantations and slavery. So that goes back to her comment of who are the actual prisoners, and that are in prison and helping this economy thrive. And that goes into the discrimination, and then how prisoners are picked to go to prison and or are chosen to get more chances in life.
Yeah, I think it's good that that when you guys had an opportunity where the viewers about to see your interview with Dr. Richardson, who was a scholar and a professor on the campus, University of Maryland, who studies around the prison industrial complex, the carceral studies, and juvenile justice, and you guys learned that about 70%, about 65 to 70% of all drug users in this country are white, yet black people represent about 76 to 80% of all new convictions. That tells you something's out of whack. That because basically people in this country use drugs at about the same rate of their overall population, but for some reason people of color represent the highest number of newly convicted drug offenders, and so it's not that they're lousy criminals, they can't get away with it. It's because the system is out of whack, and it's biased, and it's institutionally racist, and has for a long time put black and brown skinned people in the crosshairs. And so that's something that has to be changed. I like the fact that you guys got into a lot of solutions throughout this documentary what's being done on campus, what's being done on a broader scale, and what things can be done. And I'll end on this, is that when you look at countries like Norway, I just mentioned that because I just got back from Norway, and it really blew a lot of people to find out that in the U.S. you actually have prisons on the stock market. And so they're like, the prisons aren't based on reform. I'm like, no, they're not based on reform. They're based on profit. They're largely based on profit. So you can find Corrections Corporation of America, GEO Group, on the stock market right now, and they're making billions of dollars. And so when you have people making billions of dollars, no, it's not based on reform. It behooves them to have those prisons stocked full of people, so it's a really important issue. I'm glad you guys covered it. Any like last comments before we start this documentary and get into it?
Well, just to elaborate on what you said, African Americans are targeted. And I remember I went home recently, and me and my mother we were together in the car, and we saw this like lime green Cadillac, and my mom just made a comment like they should have known better to bring that to Howard County, because, and I don't know if everyone knows exactly the environments in Howard County, but it's more of a white, richer community. And so they actually, the irony was that they had been stopped. And I feel like, even though I wasn't there to see everything play out, it's just that they weren't handcuffed. And if there was really a reason for them to be stopped and searched with their trunk open and all of the car doors open for as long as they were searched for, then, there would have been evidence. But they were just held there because, they brought their car, and there's 2 African Americans, and there was really no evidence for them to be searched. There was no reason.
Right.
And then my ending input on this is, I thought that I was I was conscious about like the problems, and then about the problems in our communities and even here on campus. And it's common sense that there's something going wrong, and then there is discrimination taking place. But the fact that this documentary opened my eyes up even more is that we're intending to like give the real message, like the real facts. And for a person who claimed he was conscious, like I've learned so much in this one documentary that it's important to like get the engaged population to educate them, and then that can extend the legacy of being actually literate in what's going on.
Yeah, each one teach one, because as we also learned on this journey, is that the striking question that comes up: why, if this is such a huge problem in America, which it is, and such a huge problem that disproportionately affects people of color, why is it not covered by the corporate media? And we've learned why it's not covered by the corporate media, and it's not discussed in enough classrooms, because it's not supposed to, because there are certain things that are supposed to be left off of the mindsets and the consciousness and the subconsciousness of the vast amount of Americans. And once they're left off the subconscious, they can't be issues that they press for change. So I'm glad that you guys ended up doing this documentary, because this is the first step towards engaging many people. So with all the other activists that are out there doing things to bring attention to this issue, you guys have just joined that fray and joined that noble crowd.
Glad to help.
So
thank you.
Thank you.